right, we are at the If My People Bible reading, part 54, chapter 48, Genesis, nearing the end. And Genesis is certainly a good place to begin the story of the sinful families that we all belong to the Father, uh, whether we're grafted in or whether we're of the family of Abraham's direct line, or whether we are redeemed through the blood, or whether we deny the blood, the Son. That's what it all comes down to. That's you can name anyone on the face of this earth, and that's what they fit into. Um, and no one can blame anybody but themselves for any decision they make. It's all a matter of choice. So we start with chapter 48. Now, uh, Joseph was redeemed back with his family and his father. They never thought they'd see each other again, especially his dad, Israel. So um, here we are. Sometime later, Joseph was told, "Well, your father is ill." So he took his two sons, Manasseh, the firstborn, Ephraim along with him. And when Jacob was told, "Your son Joseph has come to see you," Israel rallied his strength, sat up in his bed. Um, Jacob said to Joseph, "El Shaddai, Yahweh Almighty, appeared to me at Luz, Bethel, in the land of Canaan, and there he blessed me. And he said to me, I'm going to make you fruitful and will increase your numbers. I will make you a community of peoples, and I will give you this land as an everlasting possession to your descendants after you." A community of peoples means all types of behaviors and different kinds of people all together with different ideas. All with different gifts, by the way. Each one had different gifts, and you're going to hear them here. Each one has been given and blessed with a special gift. Okay. And we'll continue on here. He says, "Now then, your two sons born to you in Egypt before I came to you here will be reckoned as mine. Ephraim and Manasseh will be mine, just as Reuben and Simeon or Simon are mine. Any children born to you after them will be yours, and in the territory they inherit, they will be reckoned under the name of their brothers." Comment, Jacob, Israel, has literally adopted Ephraim and Manasseh. In other words, means they were grafted in. "And as I was returning from Padan, to my sorrow, Rachel died in the land of Canaan while we were still there on the way, a little distance from Ephraim, Bethlehem." And excuse me. So he called in the two sons, and he was going to bless them. And when Joseph saw that his father was placing his right hand on Ephraim's head, he was displeased, so he took hold of his father's hand to move it from Ephraim's head to Manasseh's head. He was going to put his arms like this, and his father did this. And he did it intentionally. So he was going to use his right hand to bless Ephraim, and according to Joseph and tradition, the right hand went on the elder, the firstborn. So, but his father's refused. He says, "I know, my son, he too will become a people, and he too will become great." Talk about Manasseh. "Nevertheless, his younger brother will be greater than he, and his descendants will become a group of nations." Comment. Ephraim would go into captivity and lose identity, and his calling back into the covenant relationship from diaspora in the last days will be the fullness of the nations and good for everyone. That's in Romans 11:25, by the way. Boy, where'd that come from? "He blessed them that day." That was Israel. "He blessed these two boys. In your name will Israel produce this blessing. May Elohim make you like Ephraim and Manasseh. So he put Ephraim ahead of Manasseh. Then Israel said to Joseph, I'm about to die, but Elohim will be with you and take you back to the land of your fathers, and to you, as one who is over your brothers. I give you the ridge of land I took from the Amorites with my sword and my bow. Now we're in chapter 49. Then Jacob called for his sons, and he said, gather around so I can tell you what will happen to you in the days to come. Just a few notes here that we find of importance, especially doing historical studies worldwide, apologetic studies, really digging down deep. So Reuben, firstborn, my might, my first sign of strength. Turbulent, you will no longer excel, for you went into your father's bed onto my couch, and you defiled it. Simeon and Levi are brothers, their swords are weapons of violence. And when you follow these tribes of where they went to and where they lived and where they are today, everything you're about to hear is happening and has happened. Judah, your brothers will praise you. Your hand will be on the neck of your enemies. Your father's sons will bow down to you. Most of Judah is in the United States. Most of those are in New York. And those are in the power of the money. They've got their hand and they've got their foot on everybody's neck, especially their enemies. They're controlling them. That's why the world hates the United States and would like to see probably New York be destroyed. It's like a Babylon anyway these days. So we'll see what happens there. But the people who did return since 1890s, since Herschel, and since the 1920s, the Balfour Declaration, Lord Balfour from Britain made a promise, and the United States certainly played a part of it. So Manasseh and Ephraim had a big part in Judah going back to the land, especially after World War II, when a good number of them went to Israel and lived in it and raised families. But the majority did not. They went back to Europe and they went to the United States. And they went and they kept the rest of the non-believers in Yahweh, but called themselves Jewish. They ended up in Russia and the steppes and White Russia and that area. In that area, and then they have slowly come back after the 1994 fall of Russia, the USSR. The scepter will not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet until he comes to whom it belongs. He means Yeshua. And then that will, and he did. He came the first time, the first advent. And so the scepter did depart. Well, what do you mean by that? Well, there's no more sacrificing in Israel today, is there? And should there be in the future? No. Why? Because some of the big gigantic arguments here about Paul saying we're no longer under the law, when he was talking about that, and you go back and read everything that's written, not just that one sentence about we're not under the law anymore. We are under Yahweh. Yahweh is law. So we don't throw away Yahweh, and we don't throw away his Torah. We simply put away and not under the control of what is no longer of the law. For instance, all the 200 some laws dealing with sacrifices and bloodletting and so forth for temple worship on a daily basis. We don't have to do that. Yeshua was the last lamb to die, the last blood to be spilled. No more. Now he's gone and he's coming back, but he came and it's over with. When he got baptized, when his announcement was officially made and the Father said, this is my Son, whom I well pleased, that is the beginning of the end for this sacrifice stuff that, by the way, the Father has said throughout the Word, which you'll hear, he never wanted it. He never wanted a great big temple. He never wanted anything other than made of wood sticks and in the wilderness. He never asked for any of that. And he means it. And he got his way. But Orthodox Judaism likes to bring this crap right back into it and like to jam it down everybody's throats to make them so holy and so pious, so that you've got them people acting like that. You got the Pope acting like a who knows what, a pagan heathen, that he brings all kinds of gods and sticks and praying to the Lord through Mary and going to him, and he's the only one that knows him, and he's the great seer of everything. That's all nonsense, total nonsense. So then we go on to Zebulun. Zebulun will live by the seashore. Who is that? Netherlands. When you talk to those people there, and I have a number of books on the shelves here, on both sides here. These people tell stories that pass down through their families that they are Zebulons. And they lived in the Netherlands. And they dealt with the sea, they were sea peoples. Plain and simple. Always have been, always will be. Ishkar. A wandering type of individuals. Danites. Let's see, we have the Danube that flows through Germany all the way down from one side of Europe down to the eastern shores, through the Black Sea and so forth. Huh. And so you're saying that Germany had the people of Dan in it, and that the Netherlands, who also speaks Deutsch, also speak German. Those two tribes had something to do with harming and punishing people of Judah who claimed Jewish ancestry? Yeah, take a look at it. Did the brothers treat Joseph here very well? Did they? Think about it. It was one brother against one brother here in World War II. And the people in Russia who had Jewish blood in them, of Judah, but were atheists as you can possibly be. Lenin, Marxism, Stalinism, full of atheistic Jewish type behavior. And they were going after the Danites? Think about it. And the whole world's gotten caught up in this stuff. But all this is going to come to an end one day. Dan will provide justice. One thing about some of the German people now that the war's over, you ever go to Germany and see how clean and neat and how they run everything? Then you go to France, it looks like a pigsty. Crap all over the road, people living in trailers. Ugh. Let's see. Dan will be a serpent by the roadside, a viper by the path that bites horses so that its rider tumbles. Who ties closely with Germany? Irish. Who were the majority of the law enforcement in the United States when things got going? Germans and Irish. Think about that. All right. Gad, Asher, Naphtali. Already told you that. That's you go to Scotland today and you look around and you see these flags flying above the family crest and so forth. And a third of them have a doe, a running Naphtali doe in the middle of their crest. It's amazing. So, to finish chapter 49, we say this: for our understanding, Israel, Yaakov, kept his feet on the ground until the last minutes of his life. He lived a life trying to be first, trying to be the best. He lived a life separate from Yahweh at times until he finally was brought to his knees. He lived a life of cleverness, opinionated, aggressive, contemptible, over-assertive, self-centered, but his faith finally brought him to Yahweh, and his works too. And is this not us also? Wow. It is amazing. We have one short chapter to go, chapter 50, and we will end the book of Genesis. But before that, we'll get into chapter 50 to end it, to finalize it, so we have a clear understanding of where Genesis stands, and then we're going to jump into what these chapters 1 through 40 in Exodus will bring us. See you till then. By the way, it is Friday, so this time I can say, hey, Shabbat Shalom. To you too.